Okay, here we are with another wholehearted chat with one of our authors from our beautiful book, Wholehearted Wonder Women 50 Plus. So today I'm welcoming my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Zora, and she's a thought catalyst. She's also has a background in holistic health, and she's a speaker, and she's got a beautiful message for the world about being human, which I truly adore. She's been speaking to people around the country about what that means. So, welcome to our beautiful little chat here, Dr. Zora. Hi,
Thank
how
you,
are you?
Lulu. I'm so glad to be here and have this time with you.
Great. So, Dr. Zora wrote chapter 12, and it's called The Courage to Jump. Dare to dream, commit to your life, and take inspired action. And it's a beautiful, warm story in there, but also, you showed in that story about coming to this crossroad and knowing what you needed to do. So, do you want to just share with our beautiful viewers a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that all of us reach not only once, but probably lots in our lives, sometimes big and small. But I call it my squirrel story, where it was really, I had the help of a wonderful mentor at the time. And I was at a point in my life that I had some really huge decisions to make. And so a trip that I took without telling the whole story that led me to stop just an unplanned stop at a park. And what happened as I went and took like a path less traveled and came upon a scenario that hit me to my core. And I'm watching the scenario with the squirrel and the bird, and it was like as if it was me. And so the story tells about how deeply that affected me and the messages that were there for me. Um, and again, I won't tell the whole story now, but it was so impactful that as I worked with some of the symbolism in it and learned more about myself through that, I was able to make some huge decisions in my life, one in particular, that I found the courage to jump um, like the squirrel did in the water. So um, yeah, it's a story that I'll never forget. As simple as it might seem when you read it, it was huge for me.
Beautiful. And
Yeah.
we're aware that we do get these messages in our life. Sometimes you can be just somewhere, random, and you get a message or a sign, or you're in a conversation and someone just says that right thing that you needed to hear. The more we're on our path, do you find that that's something that happens more often than when we're kind of like just crowded by everyday living?
That's a great question. I think it happens all the time, actually. I just think that mostly we're not seeing it. We're
Hmm.
moving too fast. We're too much in our heads, and we don't recognize when the subtle messages are right in front of us. And
Yeah.
when we do just stop and pay attention, there's often a lot of wisdom there for us.
Hmm. And that's part of your message with the being human, that you've just chatted to people and people have been warmly opening up their lives to you. You've been in the streets in some, or in parking lots, or in stores. So yeah, just tell me it was something that stood out to you by doing that, and just give the viewers a little bit about what you've been doing with that.
Where, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I call this, it's almost like a campaign, choose human, because what I find in life, I'm seeing that our humanness and humanity is almost being defiled in some ways, that we're just almost forgetting. And so what's important to us? And so I will, when it feels right, I will simply ask someone the question. In fact, I should post yours. You and I had a chat about that, where the question would be, what is the most important or beautiful thing to you about being human? And I am never disappointed with what comes out of people's mouths, whether it's an old person, a younger person, male, female, whatever. What's important is not the things we judge each other for and fight about, right? What's important is our hearts and our relationships and our kindness. And it's so amazing as we remember how amazing that we are as humans and never forget. So yeah, it's important to me to continue to fuel that fire of humanity and connection.
It's such a beautiful mission. I'm going to actually ask you to go into the group and do a quick short video on this again, just this section, and then let the other all our members, put something in there. I'd love that as a conversation
Yes,
starter.
ask the question and see.
Yeah,
That would
that'd
be
be lovely.
fun. That'd be wonderful. Yes, I'll do that later.
I'd love you to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a few questions today. So, part of the Wholehearted Wonder Women is, you know, the authors, to get to know the authors, to know what they do with their businesses, and also just a little bit more about them to make it, much more personable. As Zora and I were saying, like we travel so fast in our life all too often. So, having these wholehearted conversations about learning about people and just pausing and listening to their journey, their adventures, helps support us in our own journeys as well. So my first question today is, when you were a teenager, what did you do for fun?
For fun, I was actually, believe it or not, very quiet and kind of naive as a teenager. But then as I got through high school and my late teens, I began to sort of come out of a shell, so to speak. And the thing that I loved to do the most was travel.
Hmm.
And I still do. I still love to travel. It's one of my favorite things. I love seeing new places, and I especially like going to non-touristy places where you get to meet the people and the cultures. I actually took my kids to Costa Rica one time for a month in a farm in the middle of nowhere for just that reason.
Mm.
Because then it kind of is the choose human thing. Now that I think about it and say that even back then as a teen, I loved understanding people, and everywhere I went, people were amazing. Every country, every part of the United States, we're inherently amazing beings if
Mm.
we allow ourselves.
And sometimes we notice in those countries, me being a world traveler as well, is, the less they have, sometimes the more joyous they are, which is so
Yes.
surprising to our Western culture that, like with less, we can actually have more joy. So that always, touches me in different places. I'm reminded of a story my father-in-law says about traveling, and he always, once he gets somewhere, he kind of plops himself in the middle of like the city and just watches where people go and what they do and the favorite coffee shop and the favorite restaurant, and he just watches people for like the first day, and then he's like, okay, we're going to eat there, that looks like that's a place everyone likes to go. And so with travel, when you arrive somewhere, often you're in a place of the unknown, but then if you just watch the locals and you see what they're doing and how they interact, it's really quite beautiful.
That's a wonderful idea. I will use that one
Oh,
day.
good, good, good.
Yeah.
Well, we thank my father-in-law, Graham. Thank you. Um, okay, my next question is, what are you the proudest of in your life?
What am I the proudest of in my life? I could say the typical things like my holistic health center or my kids, but I think now what I would say, being at my age of 65, I'm probably proudest of the things that I've overcome, the wisdom I've gained, the tenacity that I've had, in life, good, bad, ugly, um, all of it. That's the richness of life, that I probably feel more comfortable in my own skin now than I ever have, even though there's still lots of new things I'm learning every day about myself, and as we live with a lot of uncertainty and um, I just, yeah, I think that has to be it. I'm finding strength in myself, that and wisdom that is really nice to see.
Mhm.
And sometimes again, when I just get quiet and feel in, like, wow, I've come a long way from that teenager that was naive and quiet and easily intimidated and kind of scared. And so, yeah.
So that's beautiful about being comfortable in your own skin. And so, if any of the viewers or our readers are thinking, you're at a place at the moment that you're not feeling that, please know that that's part of the message of our book, and also that you can connect with any one of these authors and see what they have to offer. I was on another podcast this morning, and I was reminded of the term that we often think we're wounded, and I wanted to change it to we have wounding, because then it makes it more active. So we're working through many layers all the time, and no one point really, unfortunately, do we get to and we're like, there's nothing more to do.
Right.
We've arrived. So just knowing that you can ask for support and seek any of the authors to support you in any way. And I'm going to let Dr. Zora tell you a little bit about what she does at the end, and also give you something that you might be interested in that she's offering. So let's go to your greatest mentor.
I've had some really amazing mentors. And so I will bring up one of the mentors is in my squirrel story, Dr. Tom Preston. But the first person that impacted me the most before my holistic health, days, I had a degree in rehabilitation and counseling. And I had a supervisor at an internship named Larry Tweed. And I think I was in that internship my last year of undergrad for maybe 4 months. And he was the first man I remember really seeing me, understanding me at that age, and mentored me with such clarity and kindness. And I was given clients to see as part of a team. And I was like their counselor. And there were a few that really I didn't know how to handle. They were quite difficult. And I learned the power of silence, when to be quiet in communication.
Mm.
Um, I also, and I'll share this because it's always a great little tool, that he called the shoebox theory. Like, I was losing sleep at night over, I still remember this one guy's name, a young man that was like, and Larry kept saying, you're throwing the ball at him, but he keeps throwing it back to you. Like, it was a very difficult person, mentally and emotionally as well. And so he says, well, tomorrow bring in a shoebox and bring in some cardboard. So what I did was I bring out all that in. He says, okay, which are the people? There was like 3 people, cut them out, little cutouts, right? And I put their names on them. And I had my own little desk there. So I'd open up the shoebox and I'd pull all the 3 little people out, and I'd leave them there. And it was time for me to be there and play that role of counselor and deal with them as best I can with the tools I was learning. And at the end of the day, I threw them in the box and shut the box. That's all it was, something that simple. But just that intention of, I'm here to do this job, I'm here to learn. But when it's time to go home, I need to leave that here. There's nothing I can do for these people. And being that then after that, I went to chiropractic college and a bunch more school, that lesson followed me and still does to this day. That I do also NET, the neuro emotional technique, which can be extremely deep work. And I'm usually pretty good at staying very focused, but also keeping a very respectful boundaries with people
Mhm.
in terms of, a healthy kind of a way, at least as much as I can. So that was a one great lesson that I learned in my late teens, actually, or early 20s.
Mhm. Yeah, and so often we do carry things for too long until they're burdening us, and
Yeah,
they're not even for us to carry. So
right.
what a good lesson to learn, and have a mentor that showed you some of those Probably
Yeah.
those other skills that are not often shown in an internship, those other very life skills. So that's, yeah, yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, and I wanted to know if there was some advice someone had given you in your life that actually has served you like nearly like tenfold or multiple times. Some advice someone has given you.
Gosh. Again, there would be so much. Again, I've had such good mentors come into my life many times. Uh, I will mention one thing because it's very simple, and I mentioned it to somebody the other day, and I tell myself this a lot, is the saying, nothing has any meaning but the meaning you give it.
Mm.
And that was from another mentor of mine, Dr. Dennis Perman, again, who I'm still in touch with off and on. But nothing has any meaning but the meaning you give it. So
Mhm.
that brings it back to being responsible for your reactions, your actions, and the other work that a lot of us and a lot of the women listening to this do. There are a conscious bunch of women, I'm sure, here that are attracted to this book. Um, that a lot of what we perceive is through our own filters, and the meaning we can realize we can change, we can make a different choice, and that changes everything when we do that.
So this is a little practice that Dr. Zora has just given every one of you today. Like, look at something that you've been adding too much meaning to, or you've exaggerated or distorted the meaning, and see if you can imagine just like bringing back your energy away from it so that it's more like you're the observer of it, not like you're entangled or enmeshed in it. So there's one little practice that Dr. Zora has just given you that you could do today. So tell us more, Dr. Zora, about what you do and something you'd like to offer our readers today.
Well, what I do is a bunch of different things now. I don't have a larger holistic practice. I work a lot of one-on-one with coaching, NET, a lot of deep stress work, and one-on-one with couples as well. I'm going to put together a few groups and try that. I wasn't, because we couldn't do that for a while, but I'm going to do that maybe even on Zoom. Um, and the Choose Human is taking up a lot of my time in terms of planning that. I did a road trip, as you know, that's when I came to visit you. I did a 3-week road trip with the Choose Human and interviewing different people. I'd love to build on that and bring that into more of my focus in terms of my business as well. And I'm putting together a series of seminars around the chapter in this book, The Courage to Jump. So what I'd like to offer the people listening here and on the replay this Sunday at 10 o'clock, I'm going to call it a courage call with the Courage to Jump. It'll be a little under an hour, probably about an hour call. And we're just going to have a discussion in more of the tips, kind of more of what we just touched the surface of today. And how do we find courage when there's fear or uncertainty or even excitement about something, and we just don't know if is it the right time or should I do this or not. A call with a group that we can go over some tips and things that can be really helpful. Like we just talked about, sometimes the little tiny things can change a lot. So the Courage Call on Sunday at 10 o'clock. What I'd like them to do is email me at, we'll put this underneath this video, at Dr. Zora, DRZORA, Dr. Zora at protonmail.com with their email, and I will put them on the list and send out the Zoom link for the call on Sunday at 10.
Great.
Yeah, and then the other thing I'd like to offer was when I talk about the consulting and the stress kind of release work and the NET, anyone that connects with me also can schedule as with as much time as I have. I put extra time in my schedule for a 30-minute no charge NET coaching, what I sometimes call catalyst sessions,
Mm.
because I love the definition of catalyst, meaning making it's like an enzyme, it makes things happen quicker than they would otherwise.
Mhm.
And I facilitate that with my clients so that the things they want to release, understand, change can happen much more quickly with the work that we do.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What a lovely offer. So, as Dr. Zora said, she's going to put that in under the video, but she'll also put it in its own post so that you can see that clearly. And I'd like to just let you know that I'm going into my second book under the Wholehearted Wonder Women
Yay.
50 plus heading for next year. And so, if you know women that are wanting to write, they have their own business, they're over 50, and they really want to change this societal narrative about age. The juicy topics I'm going into are sensuality, intimacy, and passion. And that's not just in relationship, it's in reference to life as well. Those sensuality and intimacy to your own life. So yeah, let them connect with me. I'll put my details also in the chat. So I'm on the sort of pre-planning phase of interviewing people for the next book. So, think of who you have in your life and who might be ideal for. So, I'd like to thank you for our time together today, Dr. Zora. It's been wonderful, wonderful
Thank
chatting
you.
with you. And for anyone watching the replay, make sure that see what's on offer. Look at each wholehearted chat that comes through and get to know our beautiful authors. Much love to all of you.
Thanks. Bye bye.